Okay, so ready to get into the head of a dictator, because today we are tackling Frank Herbert's God Emperor of Dune. And we're not just talking like any despot. Oh, no, this is Leto II. This is a ruler who claims to have humanity's best interests, like right here
Right.
at heart, even as he rules with an iron fist. And you've shared some excerpts from the book, stolen journal entries, even whispers of like oral histories, all painting this picture of his reign.
Yeah, and it's a reign that's, just full of contradictions, isn't it? I mean, we're looking at a character here who is both deeply human and like utterly alien. It's a tyrant who claims to be guiding humanity to a utopia that they can't even comprehend.
Right, and he calls it the Golden Path.
Yes.
But like, what does that even mean? Is it true freedom, or is it just like a gilded cage of Leto II's own design?
Well, if we look at the core tenets of the Golden Path,
I
as we
guess-
understand it from these sources that you've provided, it really is all about survival at any cost. Leto II, through his prescience, saw a future where humanity was just on the brink of extinction.
Right.
The Golden Path, according to him, was really the only way to avert that fate.
Okay, so he had to force humanity down this like predetermined path to ultimately set them free.
Yeah.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
It is. And I think the excerpts really drive that home when we're looking at the cost of this choice. So the execution of historians, for example.
Right.
I mean, he wasn't just silencing dissent.
Right.
He was trying to erase any alternative to his narrative, to his Golden Path.
Yeah, and there's the control of the spice. Like he literally held the galaxy hostage by monopolizing the most valuable resource in the universe.
Yeah, and that speaks to, I think, just the inherent contradiction of his rule here. He claims to be guiding humanity toward this future where they are free from dependence, yet he fosters dependence on himself.
Yeah.
He becomes this axis around which their entire civilization revolves.
Yeah, and we can't forget about like his physical transformation, his body merging with sand trout, just becoming this grotesque hybrid creature.
Oh, it's
like, how does that play into all this?
It's almost as if by shedding his humanity so literally, he distances himself from the very people that he is claiming to try to save. I mean, those excerpts describing that remaining patch of human skin on his face, that is fascinating.
Yeah. It's like this weird juxtaposition because he's clinging to this last vestige of his former self.
Yeah.
Yet his actions seem so devoid of any empathy.
And that's where I think the stolen journal entries that you've uncovered and that you've shared, these are really enlightening because they offer us a glimpse into his internal struggle. I mean, the burden of prescience, the loneliness of absolute power, it takes a toll.
And he even reflects on his own father,
right,
Paul Atreides, who also grappled with that weight of seeing the future.
Exactly. And I think that shared experience, that inherited trauma almost, it adds another layer to Leto II's motivation. So he's not just driven by this cold calculation, but by this deep-seated fear of repeating his father's mistakes.
So is it possible that he convinced himself that his extreme methods were really the only way to break free from this Atreides cycle of prescience and tyranny?
It's a question worth considering, but even with that understanding, even if we come to that conclusion, there's no escaping the brutal reality of his rule.
Right.
And that's where I think characters like Monio and Siona come into play because they offer these different perspectives on the impact of Leto II's reign.
Yeah, Monio, his like seemingly, at least on the surface, loyal majordomo, but we see him wrestle with the moral dilemmas of serving a ruler like that.
Right. His insistence that Leto doesn't kill, that it's the worm doing the killing. I mean, that's fascinating.
It is.
It speaks to the lengths that people will go to rationalize the actions of those in power.
It's like they need to believe in the inherent goodness of the ruler, even when they're confronted with like evidence to the contrary.
Precisely. And then you have Siona, who represents, I think, a starkly different reaction to Leto II's rule. She sees through all the propaganda. She rejects this idea of a predetermined path.
Totally.
And she chooses to fight back.
Oh, she's a firecracker.
Yes.
Her defiance is so palpable in the excerpts. You can feel her anger, her frustration, her refusal to be controlled.
She embodies this inherent human need for agency, for the freedom to make mistakes, to carve one's own path, even if it leads to suffering. And that directly challenges Leto II's belief that he knows what is best for humanity.
Right, and her very existence throws a wrench into his like meticulously crafted plans.
Absolutely, and it raises a crucial question for us. Can any ruler, no matter how powerful, no matter how well-intentioned, truly suppress the human spirit's yearning for freedom? And it's a question that, like, really reverberates through another key theme that we see explored in these excerpts, and that's the power of memory. I mean, Leto II's really unique ability to access, like, his ancestors' memories
Right.
gives him this incredibly complex
That's right.
perspective on history.
Yeah, he doesn't just read about the past. He, like, experiences it,
Yeah.
viscerally, emotionally. It shapes how he understands, like, humanity's potential, but also their capacity for destruction.
Yeah, and it stands in such stark contrast to the Museum Fremen that you've included in the sources here. I mean, these are the keepers of the rituals and the symbols who
Right.
have lost, like, the deeper meaning behind all of them.
Yeah, they're clinging to these remnants of their culture without really understanding. It's like a cautionary tale about blind tradition,
Yes.
about mistaking that rote observance for, like, a true connection to the past.
And it highlights, I think, a key difference between Leto II and those that he rules.
Okay.
He understands the why behind the what.
Right.
He sees those threads that connect the past, the present, and the future.
Which makes his, like, willingness to inflict pain on humanity all the more unsettling.
Yeah.
Because he claims it's a necessary evil, that he needs to make them suffer to make them strong.
Yeah, he believes that stagnation is a greater threat than tyranny.
Wow.
He argues that by forcing humanity to experience the oppression of his rule, that they will crave freedom on such a fundamental level
Right.
that they'll never willingly surrender it again.
But then that just raises the question, like, can you force a species to evolve?
Yeah.
Is it really true freedom if it's just a reaction to oppression rather than, like, an intrinsic desire?
It's a question that's complicated even further by the arrival of Fair Nori.
Yes.
I mean, she disrupts everything.
She does. She really does. Here we have this woman who is literally bred by the Ixians to challenge Leto II. They recognize his isolation, his emotional detachment, and they use it against him.
And she's fascinating, isn't she?
She is.
Because she's not just like a pawn in their game.
Right.
She's a player in her own right. She sees Leto II,
Right.
not just the God Emperor.
And he's drawn to her in a way that he hasn't been with anyone in centuries. I mean, their interactions, at least as they're described in the sources that you shared, are electric.
He recognizes her as a god trap.
Right.
Like, she is a threat to his carefully constructed plans.
Yeah.
Yet he's also drawn to her warmth, her compassion, her capacity for love.
Right. It's this reminder that even somebody who seems so far beyond humanity can still crave that connection.
Yeah.
Can still be vulnerable to love.
And that vulnerability is something that his enemies are quick to exploit.
Yes.
The attack on the Ixian embassy during the festival and on, I mean, that's a turning point in their relationship.
It's just chaos. Explosions, panic crowds. The fish speakers are like lashing out with his zealotry that's both frightening and revealing.
And amidst all of that, what is Leto II primarily concerned with? Hui's safety.
Yes.
It's this raw human moment that cracks the veneer of his godhood.
Yeah. But it's also the beginning of the end for them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because he realizes how deeply he cares for her, and he understands the danger that that poses to everything that he's worked for.
He even tells her, I love you as a man loves a woman, but it cannot be.
Right.
That will never be. I mean, it's heartbreaking.
It is. He's choosing his grand plan, his golden path, over the love of his life. You can feel the weight of that decision, the sacrifice he's making.
And it really sets the stage for that tragic climax of their relationship, Hui's death at the Sienna.
Orchestrated by the Tleilaxu, the Bene Gesserit, those puppet masters never stay out of the game for long.
No, they don't.
But her death, it's a gut punch. And the fact that she was carrying his child just adds another layer of tragedy to it all. It's clear from the excerpts that her death changes him. Like, he carries that grief, that profound sense of loss with him.
It forces him to confront the reality of what he's given up in this quest to shape humanity's future. The possibility of love, of connection, of experiencing the world through someone else's eyes.
Yeah, and, as we're, like, getting to the end of the source material here, we're left grappling with the implications of her death, not just for Leto, but, like, for his entire philosophy. It's like, by experiencing that loss, he's kind of forced to confront the true cost of his actions,
Absolutely. And it's in those final chapters that I think we see this kind of shift in his focus.
Okay.
He's revealing more of his long game,
right,
particularly in those interactions with Siona and Duncan, Idaho.
Right. And there's that incredible passage where he's, like, describing what awaits him after death. And he talks about his consciousness, like, fragmenting, becoming these scattered pearls of awareness, trapped within the fabric of the golden path.
Oh, it's a chilling image.
Yeah,
It really is.
that's bleak.
He's sacrificing not just his present life, but like his very existence, spreading himself thin across time to guide humanity towards this uncertain future.
It's like he doesn't even get to experience the utopia that he's supposedly creating. He's choosing to exist as these, like, fragmented echoes, unable to really fully experience anything.
Right.
All to make sure that humanity takes this path that he's deemed necessary.
And it begs the question, was this true altruism on his part?
Yeah.
Or was there some element of self-preservation involved in all of this? I mean, did he shape the golden path to ensure that survival of these little pieces of his consciousness?
Right. It's like this whole mind-bending thought experiment.
Yes.
But it does add this whole other layer of complexity to his motives and what he was really going for.
It does.
And then there's that bit with Duncan Idaho, like their final interaction,
Yeah.
where he's like, oh, by the way, the Ixians, they can't actually create aerofol, the spice essence.
Yeah. That's huge. He's essentially giving Idaho, and by extension Siona,
Right.
the keys to dismantling a cornerstone of his control, that spice monopoly.
Right. It's like he's planting these seeds for them to dismantle the very system that he created,
Yeah.
giving them the tools to break free from the golden path if that's what they choose.
Exactly. And that brings us, I think, back to Siona.
Yes.
Because she's not just immune to his prescience.
Right.
She represents this future where humanity is no longer bound by it.
She's the wild card, that unpredictable element in his otherwise carefully calculated equation.
Exactly. And her very existence just throws into question the entire premise of the Golden Path. Because if humanity is truly meant to be free, they need the ability to choose, even if it means making mistakes, even if it means courting danger.
And that's what makes the ending of God, Emperor of Dune so powerful.
Yeah.
So unsettling. You have Leto II dying, his body disintegrating, those sand trouts are released back into the desert, but like his presence lingers, doesn't it?
It does. He talks about this new form of sandworm, one with like animal awareness
Right.
rising from his remains.
Yeah.
So has he truly died or just transformed?
Right.
Has he achieved some form of twisted immortality?
Yeah, Herbert leaves that deliberately ambiguous.
He does, and that ambiguity, I think, is what makes that ending so impactful, because we're left with Siona standing on the precipice of this uncertain future, the weight of Leto II's legacy on her shoulders, yet possessing the potential to forge her own path.
And we as readers, really as people, are left with this choice as well, to grapple with those implications of Leto II's reign, or to imagine this future where humanity breaks free from those shackles of its past.
It's a testament to Frank Herbert's genius that, decades after this book was published, we're
Right.
still wrestling with these questions. Was Leto II a savior or a tyrant?
Yeah.
Was the Golden Path a necessary evil or a cautionary tale about the dangers of absolute power?
There are no easy answers, and I think, as our listeners continue to explore this universe, to explore these themes, they have to consider this. In a world that is shaped by a God Emperor's ambition, where does true freedom really lie?
Where does it lie?
Is it found in embracing the unknown, or in forging your own path, even if it means defying the very fabric of destiny itself?